that women.
Hey, Aaron, can you hear me?
Yeah, because how you doing, Seth?
I'm good, man. Sorry for the miscommunication.
No, that's fine. You know how I roll. It's not your fault at all. You were up north in the mountains or whatever, and I did want to have you on the show. I'm glad you can make. Are you back down? You got internet access?
Yeah, I'm over here at a neighbor's house where we have Wi-Fi. You know how it is in the mountains.
You have to do that. Go next door and pilfer the internet.
Yeah, well, I have satellite internet, which is basically like dial-up. So,
well, what are you out? Where are you, in the Andes Mountains or something?
Yes, no, I'm in the Sierra Nevadas. I'm west of Atham. I'm west of Truckee.
Okay, yeah, but I mean that's not unpopulated. I mean they do have internet. But are you like at a resort way up in a park or something?
No, we live up. There's town. There's like going into town where there's everything, and then you go up into the mountains, and it's up about 5 or 10 miles. There's a bunch of houses. This is where all the old hippies and people who don't want to be in society live.
Okay, all right. So they don't have high fiber optic cable running out there.
Right. And we got power and water and everything, but
sure.
No, there's no. Oh, actually, I mean, my neighbor's only 100 yards away, and we have, they have AT&T. So.
Well, I'm glad you can make it anyway. So listen, in part because of advertising, but more importantly because I believe in the in your products, and you do good work with your indemandcareer.com and all that. I want to have you tell people about your new book because I'm hoping it sells. I hope it's going to reach thousands, hundreds of thousands of young kids. But tell people about your book and the basic tenets of it, because I want to get this out there as much as possible.
Sure. Yeah, it's called Skip College for Success, and that's really what it's about. I subtitled it A Liberation and Empowerment Guide for Young People to Grow and Not Owe. Basically, it's my take on this whole thing, starting with the first section is called The Irrefutable Evidence-Based Rationale for Skipping Past College, which provides all of the data and like common sense reasons why college is a huge mistake for most people. Mm-hmm. But it's written, I've read a lot of books in this genre. I think it's pretty entertaining and funny. I didn't want to keep it very dry. I've read some very dense books on this topic. I basically show how manipulative and disingenuous all of the statistics that are used to pressure young people into going to college.
Wait a minute. You mean the statistics the baby boomers pulled up from 1950 to 1975 saying that people earn more money with a bachelor's degree?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Also the fact that, the general news media, they don't do any real deep critical thinking about statistics. Somebody does a press release and says, a new study shows ABC. And I dissect a couple of articles explaining that a lot of the data comes from, I'm at a friend's house. A lot of the data comes from an organization called, goddamn telemarketers.
You are at a baby boomer's house.
I'm at my friend's house. He's 74. Can you pick that up? Oh, it's like, you got the caller ID and there's the telemarketers.
My folks still have a phone. Honest to God, they got a real phone. I'm like, why do you have this?
It's a phone.
Well, in case there's a fire. I mean, they have the dumbest excuse. Well, what if the cell towers go out? I'm like, if the cell towers are out, you got bigger fucking problems.
Right. No, but cell service out here is terrible. So, the one of the biggest sources of information is called the National Association of Colleges and Employers. Mm. Well, what do you think their agenda is? It's to people going to college, but they actually have these surveys that go out every year that are so scientifically and statistically biased and just ridiculous. And I got access to some of these reports and I put them in the book because I wanted to show how basically, I'm giving a little bit away, but basically they oversample engineering majors in terms of salary. So they'll survey and it's like they're surveying their own people too. So it's not randomized at all. It's completely manipulated. But what's so funny is you'll see they got 100 liberal arts majors, maybe 200 history majors, maybe 30 psychology majors, and then 3,000 engineering majors.
3,000.
And you're like, And they're using mean, they're using the average salary, they're not using median. They're just tweaking shit. It's so misleading. But nobody questions it.
It's not misleading, it's lying. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's outright, it's worse than lying because you act like you have this legitimate methodology and here are the figures and we have a fancy title, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And it's a lie. Just a lie. And now kids go and borrow untold sums of money and sacrifice decades of their youth, if not all of it, away, in part based on those statistics, I'd imagine.
That's really it's like, I didn't even get into it in the book. Well, because the second and third part of the book, it's called How to Actually Make Money, where I discuss all of, my advice about that, which includes getting in demand skills. I do talk about the trades. I mentioned that in there. I refer people over to like Mike Rowe and that whole thing because there's so many empty jobs in the trades. I do focus a lot on digital marketing because that's been my thing. That's where I've seen the most success and opportunity for people.
You've employed hundreds of people successfully, given them careers and they've gotten to skip college. You didn't have to go through that shit.
Right. It's amazing. Some of them, and for the cost of my program, it's like absurd. That's why every once in a while I get a little, it's so crazy to me. If I ever get a student that's like, oh, I can't afford your course because I'm paying for college. I'm like, so you're giving these guys $40,000. You're wasting that much, but you can't spend $100 to learn how to change your life. It like blows my mind. But I do it because it does help so many people. And then I talk about other skills other than digital marketing in the tech field, and then also non-tech skills. I know people who are teaching like things like bookkeeping or, I didn't even realize you really don't actually need a degree to be an accountant.
No, not to be an accountant. No, not to be a bookkeeper or AP. No, but
right. Or
CPA to do taxes, you need a CPA. But
for a CPA, but you can do tax returns without any degree. That's why H&R Block exists. And you could be a financial planner. There's just a lot of things people don't know about. So then in the third section, I do talk more like about just living a happy life, like making friends, traveling, being well-rounded.
More philosophical life application.
Yeah, just being self-directed in your learning and just, I was like, you could skip English class in school, just read some books, read some literature, read some history, go to a science museum. There's just like a lot of, you don't need to lock yourself into this stupid academic paradigm. So the book, if you've seen the cover, it's like fun. I have a cartoon of these two kids like skipping over the.
It is targeted to younger, which I want to ask you about. Yeah, it's not targeted to old fogies like you and me with gray in our beards, but yeah, it's targeted towards younger people.
Yeah, and I'm going to be running some Instagram ads. I have some funny videos. I would like to get it to in front of the the teens. That's been the idea, is to get the kids before. So they're not in their 20s. I have a lot of, followers, subscribers who are in their 20s who are digging on the book, but I'd like to get them before.
I'm kind of curious how you're going to do that, because Worthless, obviously, a lot of my books is kind of pointless and academic for the people who read it, because if you're 30 and you're reading Worthless, you've obviously wasted your time in school. And it really helps to get someone who's 14, 15, or 16 to read these books. I have not been able to unlock the secret of getting a teenager to pay the fuck attention and set their damn phone down. So if you've got the formula, I'm curious to hear it.
I don't have a formula. I think it's just like anything. It's just about marketing. You just have to get it in front of people. Mm-hmm. So I don't, I can't predict the results, but I will, I did a test before. So I used to do, before I wrote the book, I had a little online course called Skip College for Success. Right. And I did a squeeze page. I did a test campaign basically of to try to get email opt-ins. And I targeted 13 to 17-year-olds on Facebook and Instagram. And it basically was a landing page that said, learn how to skip college, but it was a pitch for the concept. Right. And I got a lot of opt-ins. That's kind of what inspired me to want to, I said, people aren't ignoring it, they're engaging. The problem with young people is they don't read their email. They
even have email, I'd imagine.
I didn't think they would. I think some of them have school email, but there was an interest. So what I'm going to, I'm just going to be doing like, even going on your show, I'm connecting with, some other like-minded people in terms of just hustling it, hopefully getting it featured on some blogs. And I'll just be running some Instagram ads. The kids are on Instagram. And it's up to them if they're going to respond or not. Every time you do this, it's a test. You can't make them pay attention. You know, they have to like want to, but but with Instagram ads, the cool thing is you can get in front of, 100,000, 200,000 more people and see how the response is. My whole thing in writing it was kind of cool. I really didn't have a profit motive because I said, it's a book, right? Once Amazon takes their cut, it's not a lot of profit.
I don't know. I'm living okay. I'm going to get myself a new golf club today. Used, of course, used, but I'm in part paid by book sales.
That's good. That's good. On my book, I realized something is that I have pictures and it's 374 pages. And so I wanted to do it in color, but that would have been a printing cost of like $20 a book.
Oh, yeah. No, it's cost prohibitive once you throw color in. Yeah.
But I like it just being out there. And I'll tell you one thing, for the moment, if you go to it, it says #1 new release in college guides. So I like that. I wanted to do it on Amazon because I picked all the categories that are like, some of them are business but a lot of them are college and financial aid. And I'm going to probably add some categories for like teens, self-reliance, self-confidence. There's all these different categories on Amazon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I mean, I'm just doing it kind of one step at a time, but I think just, getting it in front of them is the first thing. I mean, when I started running that ad, the funniest thing was I did get people with positive responses. And then I always get a couple of kids who want to fight with me about it and say,
just ignore them. What are they saying? Like, hey man, you just trying, it's like you're ruining their dreams. What's the response from the?
Well, I think I actually forwarded you a couple of responses a while back. I remember some people will say you need college, and they have these long, kind of sad conceptual defenses, And actually, one girl commented on one of my videos. I did a video called "Do you need a marketing degree or a digital marketing degree to work in the field?" And I'm just like, no, it's a waste of money. Here's exactly why. Point A, point B. I'm going through like 20 points specifically.
Because every week there's a new article about how students are $100,000 in debt and can't find jobs and they're working as bridge. That's not empirical enough. So you're going to convince her now with your points.
Right. So I said, look, what I usually ask them is I say to them, very seriously, I say, what do you do for a living? That's just what I ask. And if they're like, I'm 17, I'm like, well, so you've never worked a job. You never hired anyone, I'm assuming. So you don't have any concept about what you're talking about. And this one girl had this thing that was the thinking was so backward. I said the courses are outdated. And she basically said, yes, they're supposed to be outdated because that's how you understand the history of something.
History of market.
And I said, I wrote her this very detailed response. I said, look, if you're in medical school, you have to study the history of medicine as like part of your studies. You need to understand how it evolved and what they were doing in the 1800s, but you're not over there like using leeches on people. You have to learn the modern stuff. So the idea that you're going to spend 4 years, I have one of my buddies, Matt, he was going to do an MBA program. And I remember he was about to like enroll, and then they said, oh, they're going to be studying Kodak. Like that was one of their business model. We're going to study Kodak. Like this is a company that imploded
in 2 nights. Like in 48 hours, it was gone.
Yeah, and I was like, that's so outdated, So we laugh about that, but yeah, man, it's I'm hoping that the book I've got a lot of suggestions for people, not just about specific skills and data, but just to give them a paradigm, sort of a path, a way to center themselves. Because I feel like my approach to what I tell people is like, you need to have a foundational income from which you could then build something that is more in line with your passions. If you want to build something creative, it doesn't mean you have to be a drone for 40 years doing a job you hate, but you need to be able to feed yourself before you start sort of doing your artsy shit or entrepreneurial stuff.
I hate to use that word paradigm, but for the first time in the history of my life, I've actually heard it used correctly and pointedly, not just as a means to sound more important and more intelligent than you actually are, which was predominantly college. But they really do need something else. And that's when I've sat down and thought through because I want to unlock the teenage market because, well, one, we make more money, but then two, then the books and advice that us older types are trying to give these kids will actually be delivered in time to help them. But what I have found is that there's almost a religious, not almost a religious, it is a religious like belief in college because there's nothing else. There is no other paradigm. There is no other plan B. And you could, and that's what I think I know I've ran into, what you're probably going to run into or have ran into, is until you can paint them an alternative and better world that they not only can see, but believe and trust in with, for every one of you and me, there are thousands of other people more closely attached to these kids, their parents, their teachers, guidance counselors, movers, blah, 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 whatever, telling them to go to college. And the only thing they have is college. There's nothing but college. And I've talked about before how I think that, kindergarten through senior year in high school, it's a damn prison. All they have in life to look forward to is college. So we got quite an uphill battle, but until you show these kids, look, there's a plan B. And matter of fact, it should be your plan A because college fucking sucks. It is a bad proposition. And unless you're in a few key items or few key fields within a traditional educational setting, it's a losing proposition. But then because they've had nothing else in their lives, then now it's seeming like I always get a kick out of how they're personally offended and pissed off and angry at me for ruining their dreams. Like, kid, I'm trying to save you from a nightmare. So that's all they have. So does the book try to, I know that's, how to skip college, but in your philosophical segment of that book, do you try to, break through that psychological barrier and present a new paradigm?
Well, here's the thing. Everything you just said is true. And I've been dealing with this for about 10 years, ever since I wrote my first book and kind of started myself. When I was 20, my buddy dropped out of college and I freaked out.
Yeah. You were a film major, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a film major.
Yeah. So you're not making this up. You've walked the path.
I walked the path, but I was afraid for him from dropping out of college because I was inside of that brainwashing, Oh my God, you don't have a degree, you're going to end up homeless. So I've been through it's kind of like being deprogrammed from a cult. And I actually put that in the book. I have a political cartoon of these like middle-class parents worshiping, instead of a cross, it's a diploma.
College degree.
Good. But what I realized is that there's enough kids now who are wisening up that I wrote the book for them. If you're so sold on college that you're going to fight with me, the book is not for you. Mm-hmm. It's just not. I can't deprogram you from the cult if you're out there, if you're having sex with the cult leader, Mm-hmm. Like, I need the person in the cult who's kind of questioning things, saying this cult's a little crazy, but I don't know what else to do. And I do address all these things, which is what you said is people don't know what else to do. And I'm like, here's 376 pages of exactly what to do, step by step, with detailed instructions. And it's funny you say that because I have a buddy of mine, he's about our age. His daughters are, I think, 11. Mm-hmm. And he's, we had this same talk and he said, I don't know, I want to send my, it's going to be $500,000 or $250,000 to send each of my kids to school. And we talked for 30 or 40 minutes about why it's such a bad idea. And at the end of the conversation, he goes, but I'll probably send them anyway.
Right.
And I was like, because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I said, read the book, man. But it's a paradigm shift. And so those take time, So I think that it's just a matter of slow. It's like the middle class is like a lobster being boiled, and it's just going to take maybe in like 5 years, because I don't know at what price point people will wake up, because it's already quadrupled college tuition in like
to the point that if you just throw that damn money in the S&P 500 or buy yourself a house, you're going to come out way ahead. I can say that for certain on every degree except for engineering. And if it's your standard run-of-the-mill shit degree, your money is better invested in the S&P 500 or buying a house, because you're going to save money or get dividends at least. And there's and you're accruing payments, not accruing interest that you have to pay. So it's a no-brainer. But man, you are right about that. Where it's one thing when a 16-year-old kid doesn't listen to a 44-year-old old farts like you, which is probably a good thing. Maybe hey, stay away from strangers. But even though our message, what gets me is when I have friends, colleagues who agree with me are philosophically, economically, politically, and financially aligned and know this, and then they still send little, princess off to some liberal arts college.
Right.
And I'm looking at them and I'm kind of like, what the fuck did I write the book for? If you're not going to listen, what hope is it going to be a 14, 15-year-old kid that's going to listen?
Right. Well, what I talk about in the book is it goes back, like you said, it goes to like age 13 or 14, because I think school, it's not done well, but you got to learn basic reading, writing, the basics that you're taught in school. It's a foundation. But by the time someone's about 14 or 15 is when I'm like, everything you're learning from this point on is worthless. Or it could be acquired much better. So the problem, and the reason the parents do this, is because they've been, what I say is it's infantilizes their kids. It keeps them in a little baby mindset from age 6 until 22, because you're just, in these classrooms learning a bunch of nonsense that means nothing. But if you start teaching your kid about life when they're 14 or 15 and at least educate them about like rent and credit and taxes and all these things, and let them travel a little bit so they get out into the world and feel comfortable, getting away from mommy and daddy. Because that's what people are doing with school, is it's like summer camp. It's a training wheels for adulthood. They don't feel comfortable taking these little infantile baby people who have no common sense and throwing them out into the world, hey, go get an apartment. So they want to give them this little, safe experience, which as a parent makes sense because you love your kids, you want to protect them. But it's a terrible, terrible approach,
especially at that cost. Especially at that cost. And forget the lack of a quality education. Some of these schools have become so politicized. It's like, why you're now damaging yourself, even crippling yourself. I don't mean to delve into the world of politics, but it's one thing if you go and you got yourself a classic liberal arts degree and know a lot about history. It's another thing when you come out of it thinking Ocasio-Cortez is some kind of leader and that you're entitled to the world's things and everyone's out to get you and screw the system and screw you, man. Then you're crippled because you don't have a work ethic. And if anything, your worship, what you have in life, they almost give you a surrogate point and purpose in life. Well, here's your politics. And this is the only thing you need in life. And no. And, you go work a career, or you go and protest this, you become a professor, or you get a doctorate and you become one of us and fight the cause. It's like, you're not living life. You've never set foot in life. And now you are a cripple. Now, no one in the real world, no good quality people are going to want to have anything to do with you except other psychopaths and ideologues.
Yeah. I do mention that in the books briefly. I didn't want to get caught up on it. I basically in the last section where I talk about history, and I basically say that you should learn to be able to listen to multiple viewpoints on a topic, and that if you do get into the college system, you're basically going to not be trained to do that. You're going to be trained to listen to one viewpoint and be offended by it. So I basically threw out a bunch of history books. Like, here's a very liberal kind of interpretation. And I threw in some, I think, kind of wacky but conservative history books. But I said, look, you should be able to read what these guys are saying. Ben Shapiro shouldn't be pelted with rocks or, screamed at when he goes to speak. And I said, you become more powerful and more grounded if you can just be with your quote unquote opponent's point of view rather than freaking out about it. But I limited that to a small section in the book because it's not the point of what we're talking about.
Right. No, it's just more of it's just a point, another point in the.
It's another of many.
Add another bean to the, it's like the scale. There's like 3 beans here, 4 going to college, and then there's a pile of beans. We'll just added one more bean as to why not to go to college.
What I said is, I've been really thinking about this. I said, there's something funny about the education industry. It's like a $4 billion industry or 10 or whatever it is. That
education?
I looked it up. It's not as much as you'd think. It's kind of
it's $1 trillion. Are we talking kindergarten through college? Or are we just talking higher ed?
With college. I looked it up. It's actually but I forget the actual number. But the point is, it's an industry. It's a very big industry, obviously, and it's just not held to any kind of accountability like any other industry. That's the big issue. Because of this paradigm, because of the emotional belief in the product, there's no accountability. It's like, you know, even American cars, like people wanted to buy American for so long, but at a certain point there was like a lack of delivering quality goods, and the industry suffered, and then it had to rebuild itself. But people continue to invest in this product without realizing it's an investment or holding it to any kind of account. They rationalize it. You know, you meet people who are lives are ruined because of this investment, and they'll go, well, it was a great experience. And I was like, you never hear somebody that got like wiped out by a Ponzi scheme that go, well, it was a great experience.
It was a great experience. Yeah.
I learned
the timeshare I had in Mexico. That was a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but people, when you have masses of people who are deluded like this, I mean, you're almost at like a North Korean level of mass delusion. Like they cannot, it's not even like having different political views. It's really like you said, it's like people are in a religion. And if you ever try to discuss religion with a person, it's just not a productive conversation unless you're really trying to have a theological understanding of the other person, which isn't what's happening.
Right.
So, yeah, that's why the book's intention is, again, to get the idea out there. And also, I think there's enough kids out there, from my experience now dealing with thousands of them, a lot of them already are interested in skipping college, or they feel just pressured and they don't want to go. They don't feel like they have any other options. And the book is basically an older person saying, look, you're right. You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to just give in. Here are your options, so that they feel like validated.
I'm kind of hoping, again, it'll take a long time, and this too shall pass. I just like to see it in my day. You know, I just like to see where, like, the day comes out the day before I die. 49.9% of kids are now going to college, and the majority don't. That would make me very happy. But one thing I think is starting to accelerate it is a lot. There's no real delineation between Gen X and Gen Z, but a lot of these Gen Z kids, a lot of kids today who are about to go to college, they have older brothers and sisters who have just been destroyed. And I think that's kind of waking them up, where they look, at least the smart ones. The dumb ones are going to go no matter what. I mean, the day is coming. Only dumb people will go to college, if it were not already there, in an ironic sense. But a lot of these younger brothers and sisters are looking at their older brother, who's now moved back home at 28, 29, has a ton of debt, you know, spouting off whatever. It doesn't even talk about finding a job. It's all politics and how they're oppressed and whatever else. I think some people, younger people, will see that and kind of slowly, you know, they'll be the beachhead, and then they'll tell their friends. And over the next couple of generations, hopefully the word will get around like, hey, actually, you shouldn't trust anybody over 30 on this college thing. So I do see a little bit of hope. But still, to this day, it is going to be one long slog. And I'll be impressed if you can break into that teen market, man, because that's the book you should write about. If you happen to get this a bestseller among, you know, the under 17s, write a book about how you did it, because you make billions off of that one there.
It's a big market. But I agree. I do. A lot of my students who write to me are what you're talking about. Like, they've seen Friends, or they've seen, and then some of it's funny to me is this kind of frantic, frustrated, it's almost like being, you know, the Cassandra complex. Like, you see the future.
Oh yeah. Mythical Cassandra. Absolutely. Yeah.
But a lot of my students, that's what happens to them. And it's funny, but it's kind of like they get a job, they skip college. Then all their friends are like in debt in college, screwing up.
Yeah.
And they're trying to like help their friends, and they can't, you know, and they're like 20. So they get real like crazy, you know, just like you and me, but they're younger. So it's just a matter of sharing the message, and it just takes time to get through to people. I do think what you said, I did look at the statistics, and I think like the number of high schoolers in college went from 2017 to 18, it went from like 70% to 67 or 68%.
Oh, good.
So
good.
I don't know what it's in 2019. I'll check it out. I mean, the Bureau of Labor Statistics keeps these numbers. I also talk about college unemployment, graduate unemployment, which is, the numbers are so cooked to, you know, the unemployment statistics it's only people 25 and older. People 25 and older who, of course, are applying for these unemployment benefits. You know, there's all sorts of people. It's not a fully accurate picture of things. Right. But if they have a separate category of people from age like 20 to 28 with bachelor's degrees, and the unemployment rate is like 26%. It's like it's Great Depression era numbers. But those numbers don't really come out.
Yeah, no, they're not headline numbers. No. What have you ever looked at underemployment figures like U4 and U6, I think is the other one?
Yeah, I talk about underemployment in the book a lot because it's absurd. And that's really what I said is the majority of people are working in 3 fields: customer service, sales, and administrative. And that's the craziest thing to me is that there's so many office jobs out there that are just so unrelated to anything you've ever discussed in school. You're doing Microsoft Excel, you're doing Microsoft Office, you're filing papers, you're just doing all these things that it just doesn't make any sense that you spent 4 years studying French literature or French history or whatever, and it's such a shock for people when they get out of school and they're just like, okay, now I need a job. I'm like, you haven't studied how to have a job for 17 years, for 16 years. And that's been my path, because that was me I think back to my 20s and 30s. I mean, dude, it was just a nightmare.
That's why I think it's also why I like hanging out with you, but I like your work. I like what you're doing. You were there. I fucked up with my finance degree. I busted my ass off. There wasn't one damn thing I learned after the 8th grade I've needed to have the jobs I've had today. And you tried your hand at film. You've actually made some very clever and funny films on YouTube and on your own. You had this amazing entrepreneur. You've had a journey where you had to leave the cult, unbrainwash yourself, reassess what the real world was, then reinvent yourself. And now it's get your job. You could say our job is essentially getting the people out of the cult and taking a commission along the way.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
No, it's great. If anybody doesn't, watch Seth's videos. And you still have your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's Seth Jared. And I did make a feature film, which was a lifelong dream, which was made possible because of all the entrepreneurial stuff. And I didn't tell you about that. The Wally Got Wasted.
Yeah, Wally Got Wasted. No, you told me about that. Yeah, the movie. Yeah. It's out. Is it on Netflix now?
It's on Prime. It's on Amazon
Prime.
Okay. And it's on iTunes and Google Play. Okay. I started with film school because that was when I wrote a book called Film Fooled in 2008 about what the NYU film curriculum has not been updated in 50 or 60 years. It's bizarre. And I got a few messages from a few parents who thanked me for helping them. Like their kid got rejected from Tisch and they felt better. And I thought, when I went to NYU, I actually found my student ID. I'm going to post that in an Instagram post because I'm like, 19?
Yeah. Like, oh God. Yeah. It'd be hilarious to see that. Yeah.
This college ID cost my family $30,000 a year back in the late 1990s. Now it's like $50,000 or $60,000 a year for this. It is
robbery.
What's so crazy, Aaron, and this is why I've mellowed a little bit because I said I don't want to waste my breath on people, is that the weirdest thing about college is that most people are such outspoken consumers. They will complain about everything. They go to a restaurant and they get a bad sandwich and they're just like all over Yelp, like, this restaurant should be shut down. My turkey was dry. It was terrible in the service. And people are so vocal. And then the customer service people have to be like, oh, I'm so sorry you had a bad experience. And that's the culture. But with college, it's like, it's not losing $10 on a bad sandwich. You destroyed your child's finances so that they're crippled, and you don't tell anybody. Like there are people who are suffering because of college, and they're not like you and me. They're not like out there on the internet screaming bloody murder. They're like, well, I learned a lot of self-reliance from all
good experience. I learned I wouldn't be where I am without it today. It's like, yeah, you'd be way the fuck better off if
That's a good point.
I'd have 5 houses, not one. What's sad though is, and this as well as I do, is that, and you said it, where employment is in 3 main categories: customer service, admin, and sales. It's the sunk investment fallacy cost, and shame. They don't want to admit that they pissed away their money and ruined their life. And if you look at most people today, the number one accomplishment they have is their degree. It's not their career, because it's by mathematical necessity, most jobs have to be boring and suck. Most people aren't going to have a great, crazy, like there's a guy at Breyer's Ice Cream. He's the official ice cream taster. You know what? There's only 1 or 2 people in the world like that. I'm sure that chocolatiers have chocolate testers. Well, there's only 1 or 2 jobs in the world like that. The guy, or maybe it's the gal, I don't know. I'm going to assume it's a guy, and it's a lucky guy. He gets to judge what's going to go on the fashion racks of Fredericks of Hollywood lingerie. He gets to look at lingerie models. That's one guy. Most other jobs are going to suck. And when you realize you totally overinvested in an education you were never going to use, that much labor and effort, plus everyone's had dirt blown up their chute, smoke blown up their chute about how great and wonderful you all are. They can't walk home and say, well, I got my degree. I got honors in communications, or international relations, and then they're working as a barista. They cannot, because what's it working in a barista? You can do that at 16. That doesn't take. So they can't acknowledge and say they got duped. It was a waste of time. They learned nothing. And God almighty, we got to warn people about it. Their ego and pride gets way too much. I even remember my mom for the longest fucking time. She never finished her English degree, but she kept telling me English. Oh, it's not. And I'm like, why we speak English? Why do I have to take? You need to know how to dissect and whatever. And now finally, I mean, the gal's almost 70 years old. Now finally, like, well, yeah, maybe you don't really need that much education. I'm like, well, what were you telling me in the 70s and 80s? What was this bullshit?
That's funny.
Yeah, but the pride people have is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's painful. It's painful for people, for me, I was out of school for 6 years before it kind of started to dawn on me. It was only when I started to try to produce my first feature film, which is what I went to school for. And I started to dawn on me very slowly that, like, whoa, what did I learn? And then when I was researching film school, because I thought at the time it was just art school, I thought, wow, this was a mistake. And then I started to meet younger people than me who are really screwed financially. And then it was like the Matrix. It was just like waking up. But for there are many years, I had that stupid, and I had a shitty attitude too, which I think college gives people. I was just thinking about this last night. It's empty accomplishment. It's like you're proud of something that wasn't of value, really. Right. And nobody will call you on that, because some people, especially with all these stupid graduation ceremonies, those things.
Oh God.
Like, it's this, and then there's, then they get the celebrity to come in a lot of times who didn't go to college and give this, graduation speech, and with all these platitudes, it's just such pompous ceremony. It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's why it's an interesting point you made about a different paradigm. Is it took me a while to sit down and figure out the economic nature. I wrote an article, not to plug my article, but it's a good article people should read because it is true. But the economic nature of college is that of a wedding. It's this birthright. It's this one-time event that you're going to celebrate and you're going to go all out. And then after it, it's over. It's over. Her day is done. You've had the thing, you've had the stuff, you had the ceremony, and now it's back to work. And colleges, and with nothing to gain, by the way, with a ton of debt. I've known many people to get married go into debt for their wedding. And it's the most expensive consumer luxury good in the Western world today is what it is. Because at least a house you can live in. A wedding, unless you're egregious, is at most is going to cost you $80,000. College degrees, that's 4 years of your youth at minimum, and around $100,000 of expenses. And
I say it as
nothing for it. Nothing.
I said it in the book. I actually say that it's like going on a cruise for 4 years. It's like a booze cruise, because it is. There's just a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, and that's fun for But the one platitude that really gets me, that I don't think I mentioned this in the book, but I said, this idea, they say these are the best years of your life. And I'm like, dude, listen, this is just common sense that nobody thinks. If you're going to live to be 80 or 90, hopefully, it's just like if you're watching a movie, if there's like 4 minutes in the beginning of the movie that are really good, which is like ages 18 to 22, and the rest of the movie sucks, that's a shitty movie. So if you have a life,
movie, yes,
right. if you have a life where you peaked at 22 and it's all, and that's a lot, people, that's the culture. People have this thing where, you see like the old guy who's working the job he hates and he's like,
Al Bundy.
And he's thinking about, back in college, I was so popular and and he remembers the parties and shit. Like, this is so irresponsible. And that's what I put in the book too, is I say it's irresponsible. That's the lie, is that it's a responsible investment.
Well, and not to bring it up because it's a little bit dark, but I've gone down darker paths here more recently because as I'm getting older, I'm kind of like, I don't have time to be polite anymore because I was so polite in the past.
When were you ever polite, Aaron?
Dude, you could.
Before I met you.
How much I hold back, man. You have no idea. What are these? What I should see, I got to find a video channel. We'll call it like Clary Black or Clary Black Ops or something like that. And I just actually say what I fucking think. Not that I don't, but here I'll allow it. But because it's philosophical and I'm not endorsing people do this, but what people have got to say, well, why should we listen to you old people? And this is why I think your life philosophy segment in your book, because I haven't read it yet, but it's absolutely important. So you provide context and explain to kids why we're making this case, because there is a cost and a consequence. Because if it is the case, and I hate to say this is the case for the majority of Americans who went to college. If it is the case that you peaked at like high school prom, or you won the homecoming game, or your high peak was college, your days at the frat party or the sorority, or when you graduated from college, if that's, or even your wedding, like if that's the peak and it's all downhill, fucking put a bullet in your head. Okay, just go out on a high note. Hey, it's been great, everybody, and I'm out of here. Pow. And then, because if that is how you've lived your life and how you think you're going to live your life, and this is the peak, and it doesn't get any better, like the love of your spouse over the courses of generations and having kids or family, if that's not more important than the wedding day, if going out and adventuring and starting an entrepreneurship or just becoming the best in your field, if that's not a better day than your college graduate, if that was it because you're party and you want to like have the college experience, like if you go to college not to make money, but for the college experience, hey, right after the ceremony, when you hand in your gown, because you don't buy the gown and the hat, you rent it. Did you know that?
I believe so. You know what? I didn't go to my college.
Yes, I didn't know that either. You don't own it. You rent it. So after your rental, you rent the hat and the gown for like, I think $1,200. And you're going to be the future, and everybody vote for Ocasio-Cortez because socialism rules.
You have to rent it for $1,200.
Yeah, it's like over $1,000. I forgot what it was. I didn't go because I hated my school so much.
Oh my God!
But if you went to college for the college experience, not to make money, not to have a career, once you hand in your rented cap and gown, they should give you a pistol and just blow your fucking brains out. Okay. Cause that's it. It's over. You did, everything was great. It's all downhill. Why suffer the bad years? Why be mentally, emotionally, and financially crippled?
I will say, if you look at the mental health statistics in the country, you would have to agree. I mean, I would say if depression, divorce, all these things are so rampant in a cultured, high GDP country where a lot of college educated people, doesn't lead to satisfaction.
Well, we've unfortunately
that's
seen
less dark version of saying what you just said.
Right, but again, they need a new paradigm. All we've given them is go to college. You did it.
They don't have anything else.
There's nothing else. And then it's like, you don't teach people about family. You don't teach people about love. You don't teach people about camaraderie. You don't teach people about entrepreneurship and production and innovation and history and patriotism within your country. Those are all shunned, if anything, by today's standards. And so when you graduate from college or high school, what's left? There's no agency or purpose. There's no reason.
One of the reasons why there's this opioid thing happening so much more is that this is a spiritual crisis. This is an internal crisis. It goes beyond, and people are not, it's a very hollow culture, and I've done a lot of internal exploration because I was at that point when I was 20, I had major problems. I was physically ill. I had, was depressed and all sorts of stuff, which pushed me into a more spiritual path. But culturally, it's like, yeah, what do you got? And then it's funny too, because a lot of my students, I see them on this path where I'm going to do a course where I kind of address some of the deeper things in life, because all you have at that point, the people who do get out of it, some of my students, they get into money. Mm-hmm. And I've been obsessed with money my whole life. Most of us are. But once you start to have some success in that area where you weren't, then you realize, well, this isn't fulfilling either, really.
Right. It puts food on the table, but doesn't feed the soul.
Right.
No. Yeah.
But within the paradigm of college, it's just, you're just so far behind. And that's why the book's called Skip College for Success. Right. And I will say that in the book, I do expand on the entrepreneurial thing, because I have a chapter called "It is less risky to start your own business than to get a degree."
Absolutely.
Because financially, mentally, there are courses and online businesses that can be started for a fraction of the cost of one class of college. And most people aren't aware of that. They still think that, I talk about this, all the misconceptions about business, because business is seems like this mysterious thing that only big,
MBAs can only handle. Right. Yeah.
And MBAs. And I've met just as many MBAs who are, just as clueless. But yeah, man, it is how it is. And I made the book. I like how you're talking about paradigm, because I want to focus on the future. I want to focus on what is possible, and less focus. I didn't even want to include the first chapter, which is about all the reasons why college is a mistake, because you can get stuck in that. Mm-hmm. I basically was like, if you're going to read this book, you're already thinking about it. And now this is kind of like, how to do it. And I want to focus on that. I want to focus on what would be possible. Like, what if people just stopped going to college? Suddenly the student debt issue would be dead. There'd be no more student debt.
You'd have 10%. Well, not 10. You'd have 5 to 6 extra percent GDP per year to spend on. You want to talk about a boom to the economy, with no lowering. Actually, kids could probably go straight to work right now. There'd be an economic boom. It would be great. It would be wonderful. Yes.
It would be amazing. Mm-hmm. And it also, as you said, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, the pressure, the point of my book, the real, my goal for even if it just reaches it, I always write a book for one person in my mind when I'm writing it. I don't try to think too much about millions.
I do that too. That's funny. I always write my books for Jennifer Aniston. I always write it for her, a redheaded one. Yeah. So, okay, but go on. All right. Yeah.
But there's the kid who's about to ruin his life with the loans. But the other thing is, they're in high school, right? And I remember high school, and I remember the pressure if you're in a good high school. Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, I go through the process of deconstructing why you're on this conveyor belt to bullshit, to nowhere. If you at age 15 realize that the ultimate goal is this degree that doesn't mean anything, you understand it's not going to get you a better life, that you can get all these jobs without a degree, all those things, and it's a complete waste of your time, then retroactively looking back, suddenly you can just chill the fuck out when you're in high school.
Right.
You don't have to worry about those fucking SATs. I tell my students, I say, look, graduate high school. You should get your high school degree, but you can get a high school degree with D's and C's and B's. GED? You don't need or get a GED, but you don't need an A. You don't need to be, pressuring yourself. And it's written for those kids. The thing that gets me is I want to reach those kids who are like me and my friends who are really smart, who are going to go to college because they think that's the right move. It's like, dude, if you took all your mental energy and intelligence at age 16, and instead of wasting your time on these ridiculous SAT questions and these AP courses about nonsense and your college applications and going to the college interview and getting on your knees like a casting couch and saying, please accept me into your program. If you took all that energy and first off, just chilled out for 6 months and we're just like, okay, I'm young, I can relax and enjoy. And then you just start learning shit on your own. And I teach them, I was like, dude, you can learn American history. You can learn world history. You can learn science and biology to the point that you need. One of the things I talk about in high school is that I have this hydrochloric acid stain on my arm.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it.
You got grainy picture. So yeah, I believe it.
I got this in chemistry class when I was 17. And I'm sitting here thinking we were mixing like hydrochloric acid and shit. I'm in a lab coat with glass. Like, what the fuck was I doing wearing a lab coat? if you and me at age 41 were like, hey, dude, let's go to the lab. We're going to mix.
Yeah, let's go to the lab. Yeah, after some drinks, let's go to the lab.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the point of teaching a 17-year-old to mix fucking chemicals unless you know this kid's going to go on to medical school. They need to know organic chemistry. It's like 2% of the population. And we're all there mixing chemicals. This is wasted time. This is wasted mental space. You could be filling that space with information about life, about business, about skill. Yeah, I know. I'm actually waiting on my first paperback copy of my book. I'm excited for that. But listen, man, I need to run because I have to drive to the Bay Area, which is going to be
have fun.
But
look out for feces.
I know. Whenever I go to Berkeley, which I have to do from time to time, it is a palpably different vibe than other places. But that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation.
But yeah,
well, where can people find it? On Amazon, I presume. Paperback and audio?
I'm having the audiobook recorded right now.
Okay. And it is on Amazon? I'm sorry I interrupted there. Yeah.
Skip College for Success. Funny enough, I have a connection who works at I'll give the whole story, but he did an essay for a book called Skip College that just came out as well. There's another book called Skip College, which is a series of essays by educators and professionals explaining. It's not like my book. It's not a step-by-step guide, but if you search it on Amazon, you might see 2 books that say Skip College. Mine is called Skip College for Success.
And it has the cartoon kids on it.
Yeah, the cartoon kids.
Yep.
I have nothing against the other book. I think it's kind of cool that there's multiple books with the same topic coming out. And the guy is kind of like I think a libertarian or kind of he writes children's books actually about like I think you'd like them. They're kind of more, they're definitely not left-wing books. Okay. They're about capitalism and why socialism is bad and things like that. And they're little kids.
Starts a lemonade stand or something like that.
That's actually what the book is called. It's like the lemonades. That's one of his books.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
His name's Connor. I forgot his last name, but I think he's Mormon. He's very political. So he's been doing this for a long time too. So it wasn't like I thought maybe somebody ripped off my book, but no.
It happens. It happens. Yeah, that happens at times. So, and as long as you guys don't fight about it, it's all right.
No. I think we're allies, you know. But yeah, man. Cool. So yeah, I'll be hustling the book ongoingly. So let's stay in touch and maybe.
Absolutely. We got, I'm going to send this to Brett over at the School Sucks Project. He'll probably get a kick out of the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I actually just reached out to him. We play Words with Friends. So
cool. That's wonderful. So, all right. Well, Seth, thanks for coming on the show. And then, yeah, anytime you just let us know, you're welcome. And then I'll probably see you out west coming up fall or winter time. All right.
Sounds good, man.
All right. See you, Seth.